half ago, 2 years ago, whatever.
Okay, so today we're going to speak about, you can look at me, of course, the camera's just here.
Right.
We're talking about Oxnard Family Circle and the care that one receives here. You're in the program with the veterans, which my dad is, he used to come here as well. He hasn't been here back in a while because he ended up, he was in the hospital for a couple weeks, so he
Put me into this program. And what I find is that coming here, now I was coming 3 days a week, and the program has been so positive that the VA program I'm in called HPAC has increased that to 4 days a week. And in any case, for me, I have multiple problems. I have Parkinson's syndrome, and I have several other things, including diabetes and high blood pressure, which are pretty common for a veteran of my age and situation, plus PTSD and several other things. And I just find this program when I come here each day is kind of the bulwark, you know, for the week for me. It keeps me on track with my diet. It keeps me on track with all of my medical checkups and so forth for high blood pressure and sugar checks and so forth. Even if, for instance, I have something going and I don't do a check or I don't write it down, I know I'm going to have at least a core of information, you know, of where my sugar levels are because of here.
Okay, so, and they, obviously, they do all of that as part of the your daily care.
Right, plus, of course, like everyone else, I get physical therapy. Also, just the environment of being with fellow veterans and being with the staff members who are by far the most caring staff members I've seen anywhere. I came from another place that was assisted living, and I thought that the staff there was great, and they were, but this staff is just off the chain. The way they care for us and the connection they make with us as clients is just awesome. And I look forward to coming here each day.
Why is it important for veterans to receive that specific kind of care where it's, how has it helped you that that specific kind of care is offered here at Oxnard?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a program called HPAC, which is for veterans who have a history of homelessness. And I think it's become pretty clear that when veterans receive services as a group, you know, even this sounds a little bit untoward and different, but it actually is the same thing. Even in jails now, they put veterans together. That's because when veterans are a group, we're a community that I know it's a cliche, but it's true. We feel of ourselves also as family. And because of that, we tend to listen to each other. A civilian can say something all they want, but if a veteran hears another veteran, especially, for instance, like I spent some of my time in the Marine Corps, if another Marine tells me something, I put special emphasis on that. So yeah, it's good for veterans to be together because we have a very special bond. And then that carries over into everything. It carries over into our physical therapy, into our medical treatments, and everything else. We just feel at ease being here as a group.
You mentioned that you were moved up to 4 days.
Yes.
Previously it was 2 or 3 days?
3 days.
It was 3 days. Tell me why that's important, that you're able to come and increase your time here. What, if you weren't doing this, you would be where and how would you be?
Well, if I wasn't here, I would be at home. And, you know, I had multiple deployments, and unfortunately, I got through the first few okay. But my last deployment to Iraq was just more than I could take. It was a straw. And so I did come back with very severe PTSD, and which led to what you often see, the secondary complications of drug abuse, and I really wasn't with my physical program because I wasn't in a good place emotionally to do those things and to commit. Here, though, the more I'm here, the more I'm among people who understand. You know, here we can tell each other the war stories. You know, I mean, you may not want to use this part, but you know, people always say, you know, they come up and they say nice things to you, but then they say they say things that are really untoward, and a veteran doesn't want to hear. Like, did you ever shoot somebody? Did you ever kill somebody? And obviously, I'm not going to go there. Whether I ever did or not, it's not something I burden somebody with. But here, it's different. If a fellow Marine asks me about my worst experience, I'm going to offload that. I know he's not going to be judgmatic. And that's what I get here. So for the PTSD, it's a big thing for me to be among fellow veterans and to be among the staff that's so caring. And I do believe also, because the staff works all the times with veterans, I think we have a feeling that unlike most civilians, they understand us also.
How important is that, working with getting the care from the same staff, the consistent care? How important is that to
It's everything. It's everything. One of the problems that, I mentioned HPAC. I'm in a program where I get something that most veterans don't. HPAC, you have a doctor you actually see. That's your primary care, and you see them often. And you have an entire staff, and you know them by name, you know, and you deal with them specifically again and again. That's important because most veterans...
Bruce, please call the front desk. Bruce?
But because most veterans don't really get that. Most veterans, they have an assigned doctor, but they rarely actually see them. When they come in, that doctor's probably not there that day, or if he's overbooked, another doctor will see them. So it's kind of a silly program. That's one of the reasons there's a lot of problems with that part of the VA. But here, it's more like the HPAC program. So for me, it's wonderful. I have two worlds that I go back and forth where I get my treatment, and in both of them, the system's designed the same. The people who I work with each day here know me. We know each other by name, they know my background, they know what I need. And that's a true blessing.
What would you tell somebody, either a veteran or the family of it? Well, let's first speak to a veteran. What would you tell a veteran directly? And you've said a few things already that would hit home to a veteran, but what would you say to them if they were considering, or maybe they didn't think this was a good place for them? What would you tell them to help convince them and help them feel comfortable about it?
Yeah. I think primarily, and by the way, you're asking me something I've already done. I have recommended this program to veterans. Definitely I've recommended it to veterans I know who have PTSD. And if they can't get to this program, I've suggested to them that they get to another program that's similar. And although I don't know if the program is as good as this one is, because I talk to the other veterans. No, I think what I would tell a veteran is that they should come here and see if they can make a connection, because I'm sure they would. You know, it doesn't matter what branch you're from, it doesn't matter what time period you served, with the exception, I think I'm the only guy who, you know, served in the Iraq War here, so, you know, I'm not that big a youngster, but I was in a huge amount of time. But I would even tell a younger person who has a need, who would otherwise be in, for instance, you know, even somebody in their 40s, maybe even 30s, who has physical ailments and so forth that would put them into assisted living. If they're borderline, I would tell them, come here and try it, you know, because for me, this, you know, the program itself didn't get me out of assisted living, but it's keeping me out. And that's the important thing. And I actually have this opportunity because I'm actually on the Greater Los Angeles Veterans Administration Mental Health Council. So I actually have a lot of interaction with people, and I have numerous times I have recommended this program for veterans who are in the Ventura County area. So as a matter of fact, I even wrote a report to the Veterans Council about these types of programs and how helpful they are and how they can fit so well into the veterans' treatment plans for anyone who deals with the VA.
Are there any types of programs like that here in Ventura County that could benefit from your testimonial? Like if you were to say, if there's a group there, maybe you know some group specifically, what would you tell them?
Well, unfortunately, Ventura County is slightly underserved by the VA. There are groups, but luckily some of the groups that I go to in Los Angeles County, like Vet to Vet program, have people who are willing to drive that distance to get to these better programs. And in that case, I've told them, well, since you're in Ventura County, you might consider, doing this, especially at one gentleman I know who was having severe problems with I believe it was epilepsy, so severe that he was considered going into assisted living. But it was what we used to call in police work a wobbler. He was like, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should. I recommended to him that he try this program. Unfortunately, it turned out in his case that he did need something, after a few months that was more. But I definitely do recommend the program for anybody who is just trying to stay out of assisted living, wants to be independent, but wants a support structure. And they will definitely find that.
Now, where do you live now? Who do you live with?
Oh, I live in Port Hueneme. I don't live with anyone. Now I do have I have a home in Port Hueneme where my son and daughter live. But when I came out the last time, I was pretty severely injured in Iraq in 2007. I spent 8 months in Balboa Hospital, and at the end of that, they retired me. So I tried coming back up here, but one of the problems was the house I lived in is not disabled compliant. And that was a huge problem. And eventually, partly because of that, I was getting improper care and so forth. I eventually became addicted to narcotics, had a lot of problems, which is kind of passed around when you leave Iraq. So anyways, eventually when I went into assisted living. After the 2 years when I came back, when they put me into this program, I also got an apartment. It's 1 block away from the other apartment, but I am on my own, and I'm able to take care of myself, and I see my family constantly because they're only a block away.
Mm-hmm. So. That's because your family pretty happy that you're into this program.
Extremely. Yeah, extremely. Everyone, my wife, my son, my daughter have all mentioned how much happier they are because my situation was pretty extreme. Once I hit rock bottom, I really hit rock bottom. So like I said, I ended up homeless. So I needed, and I think that's also a really good point for this program. I'm not just somebody who has a little problem here and there. I have a lot of severe problems. And, for instance, I have braces and physical problems as well as psychological ones that have been well dealt with by the VA. But this is a program that is consistent with that good treatment. Once we went in this direction, things got a lot better and my family is a lot more pleased. As a matter of fact, my wife specifically was very angry about the treatment I was getting before, but now with this treatment, she's extremely pleased.
What did you learn about yourself by coming here? It sounds like you didn't know that number one, how to deal with certain maybe physical issues. The therapy is obviously helping you, But what did you learn? Did you learn anything new about yourself on your own care?
I was already starting to learn some of these things. And I'm learning every day, and this place is helping me with that. I think, one thing I've learned here, definitely, is an appreciation of how I'm interconnected with other people, and specifically with other veterans, that this is something that I need to dedicate myself to. When I came back from the war, I had tremendous survivor's guilt. And whenever you internalize stuff and get to the point that you can't function, for instance, you're suicidal or you get involved with drugs or whatever, you stop thinking about other people. And I think one of the big things this place has done is because the daily interaction with fellow veterans, certainly not every one of them's had the severe problems I've had, but a great number of them are combat veterans, and we understand the same source. And having that has really given me a focus. It's not just that I'm going here, but once I started going here, because of the effect of dealing with people here and realizing that I'm part of a community, I started doing other things. I started taking improv classes. I started going to religious services again. I hadn't gone to religious services in years. I was, a lot of, not every obviously, because a lot of combat veterans turned to God during a war, but a lot also become embittered, and I certainly did. And being here has helped me to deal with that to a point that now I'm back in several loving communities, not just here, but also my synagogue. So, no, I've learned a lot here. Specifically, my importance and how my existence is not a single existence. It's an existence within a community.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you've added layers to your life and are very happy about it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Also, and little things they've done. For instance, I've been using a cane, and then I went from a cane to a really wonderful walker I got from the VA. But these little things make a big difference in your lifestyle and what you're able to do. And quite simply, this place has been on top of it. For instance, when Frank here did my evaluation and found that I'd gone from moderate fall risk to extreme fall risk, they were right on it with the VA. 4 days later, the VA had upped my program. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that's the other thing I like about this program, is that veterans like myself I'm 100% disabled, this program works hand in hand with the VA. And that's the best way. And a lot of programs I know, talking to people, don't do that. They don't. They feel themselves kind of separate, and we can handle the job. But you really have to have, the organization that's doing primary care has to be working with an organization like this. And that, what I see here is that they work together very well. The VA is constantly here, they're constantly assessing the program. And when they do, they come in and they talk to individual veterans and say, well, what do you do today? Right now, what will help you? And that's awesome. That's just fantastic.
That's one of the things I know my dad they taught us as a family, based on what he was able to do, how to care for him. Mm-hmm. How to help him in and out of a car,
right,
through a doorway, into the bathroom, in the shower. I'm sure they teach you that.
Well, they also, it extends. It's through this program that my home, like I mentioned, I went to Building 1 in Surfside 3 where I live is kind of where all the disabled people live in that complex, because it's very wide hallways and has an elevator, it has ramps, and but my unit itself, although it also had the wide height, didn't have anything else. Through this program, I was able to get grab bars in my home, So to me, that's huge, because they work with other agencies and groups you know, to make sure that all of our needs, not just here, but in our homes. As a matter of fact, they came out, inspected the house, I mean, Family Circle, and decided that that was lacking, that I needed those grab bars, and within a week I had them.
That's awesome. Yeah, that really, those little things add big years to.
Oh, like I said, that's what keeps me out of assisted living.
Yeah.
That alone. If, you know, I'm sure if I didn't have this program, I probably would have been put back into assisted living 6 or 7 months ago. Not because the other problems weren't pretty much solved, but that fall risk is a big thing. It's a big thing, and I've had to do everything from how I walk, how I drive, you know, everything has been based on that. And this place has been the reason that that hasn't overcome me.
Good. Okay. Anything else that you'd like to add that maybe I haven't asked, but you as a marketing man, because I know you're in production, that you could think of that you...
Well, it was many, many years ago. I was a
Never leaves you, though.
Yeah, but I was a year or two for the government. I was a propagandist
Oh, okay.
during the 70s. But no, I would mention the soup. They make the greatest soup here.
Yeah? That's good. That's good to know.
No, it's a joke, but they do make the greatest soup.
Yeah. All right, well, super. Well, thank you so much for your interview.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
So how are you guys going to use this? Just as a training tool?
Well,
Or?
yeah, you know, they're able to get a lot of audiences with different civic groups and maybe veterans groups.
Oh, good. Well, I hope it helps because I
Yeah.
want to see other people in the program.
Right, and so they want to let people know. Let me take the microphone.
Sure.
They want to let people know what's available here.
It's so small.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a big fan of this place as well, and I tell people, and unfortunately, you know, I've tried to tell some people who were veterans or their families were good friends of mine, and they never took advantage of it, and you know, their father or fell down, and you know how that goes. You know,
Well,
what's-
that's the whole point.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I can still end up in assisted living.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. It is a little frustrating. Well, a lot of people are not in a place where they really want to get help. It's quite simply the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And you know, they think of assisted living as being like in a prison, and they think of this place as being like, well, you're like a little kid, they're treating you like a little kid, and you're playing games, and you're doing stuff like that. And it's like, well, actually, as we get over 60, you start to go in that direction.
Right.
So we just be realistic.
Right.
Yeah. Here's what I did for my review of the place on Google.